teams begin their quest for world domination. After 12 years, the World Cup returns to India. Over 1 billion will be hoping that it stays right here on Indian shores. Look at this extraordinary panel that we have assembled for you here on Star Sports. Starting with the man, the World Cup winner himself, Ravi Shastri. You began that dream. Indians dreamt after you lifted that World Cup. Harbhajan Singh, Gautam Gambhir lived that dream as well. For India to do it again, what will it take, Ravi?
Well, that changed the face of cricket.
I rightly mentioned, I think this is a proper World Cup, which happens after every 4 years, and obviously it takes a lot of courage, a lot of guts, and you need to peak at the right time to win this kind of a tournament.
Bhaji, who's your So what does it take to capture the world, to script your own legacy? 8 of those players who did it for England in 2019, they're here. 7 of them who did it for Australia in 2015, they are here. 2 of them who did it for the men in blue in 2011, they are here, all playing this edition of the World Cup. Ravi Shastri, World Cup winner for India 1983, the inaugural win for Team India. When you've won a World Cup already and you come back at it to capture them, take over and dominate the world, does it at all help you, that experience?
Oh, massively.
World champion?
Massively. And in India's
second nature to them playing in these tournaments.
Today will be a rematch of that 2019 final, that extraordinary final here at the Theatre of Dreams in Ahmedabad. But to be playing a World Cup, for us to be witnessing a World Cup in India again after 12 years, where you will travel the length and breadth of this country to reclaim World Cup glory. Oh, teams are excited. We can understand what a privilege it is for Indian fans to be excited to host a World Cup again. I mean, we saw so many outside for what is essentially a non-India game. Of course, Ravi, they're all wearing their India jerseys. Nothing else would be expected. But you were here, captain in 1996, opened your campaign in the World Cup in this very ground. Little different, Athers, from there?
Very different. This is the first time I've been to this ground since it's been rebuilt.
Towards this World Cup, because it is in subcontinental conditions, everyone wonders whether an Asian team will dominate again, because we haven't seen them capture a world for 12 years now.
that Pakistan has been plagued by some injuries. They'll have to be at their unpredictable.
7 wonders, modern masters, Michael Atherton, some of the batters that we've just seen. Who are you most excited to see from that list? And particularly, who do you think has it in them this time to really dominate this World Cup? Who's primed to take over?
I'm very interested to watch Joe Root, who has had an interesting time of it in between World Cups.
Champion, and that's what we want to see over these next 45 days for these players.
There's anyways big World Cup, you just have to focus on that. Stay away from the extra luggage.
Well, as Simon Dool mentioned to us yesterday, for
the World Cups, home sides have gone very well. But
so, I mean, everyone remembers what Nasser had just said about, 2011, speaking to young Virat Kohli, saying that we got a chance, Sachin has carried the burden of this nation for so many years, Bhaji, and you also. There was a chance for him to replace Sachin. Now for Virat Kohli. In 2011, a young Virat Kohli won the World Cup with all of you. He's captained in a World Cup now. He's no longer captain. Does he feel that this could be his last chance, that too at home? As Nasser put it yesterday in our show, saying that maybe Shubman Gill will be carrying a Virat Kohli on his shoulders.
Well, I'm sure that will happen, if India goes on to win this one. He's probably the only guy who didn't play much cricket. So there were like many senior guys like Virendra Sehwag, Sachin Tendulkar, Zaheer Khan, to all those guys, they played many games together. So Virat was a young, fresh guy who wanted to do well, and he was... Oh!
Nice!
That was...
Good one.
That was a good one.
So yeah, as long as we aim the cricket ball, we'll be fine.
So coming to Virat Kohli...
Are you all right?
They breed them tough in the North Island in New Zealand.
That's fine.
It's
only a rugby ball.
Well, I was going to say, if it was a different shaped ball, he'd have caught it and hoofed it over the boundary edge.
So as he rightly mentioned, that the pressure will become bigger when...
They're a different beast.
Well, they play a bigger tournament differently than the other team. That's probably the reason they are more successful. Australia will be a tough team to beat. I think for me, Australia, England and India, 3 teams are going to be the strongest team in this competition.
So already getting the predictions out there, Bish. I like it. on day one itself. That's the way we do things, but that's what it takes, right? To be a world champion, to be able to dominate when it counts. What about the captains leading their units in the World Cup? What a moment of privilege from them. Kane Williamson was there in 2019, may not be in action today, but is definitely there for the entirety of this campaign. The 10 men who will look to recapture World Cup glory, will look to fulfill the dreams of their nations. It's been very good for New Zealand's opening bowler.
Yes, has been, but I think they'll be hampered big way with Lockie Ferguson not playing, because there's a sameness to that attack, which
Firepower England has. It's going to be very difficult with 5 fielders inside. So new ball's got to be very, very critical from New Zealand's point of view.
Well, these two gentlemen know exactly what it takes to win a World Cup. Some of the England players playing today definitely know that as well. In fact, 17 players know what it takes to be world champions who will be participating in this edition of the World Cup. Last total, they've got themselves to 280, leaving 283 for New Zealand in sense to be chasing down. But we'll go through the beer here. Let's have a look at our Surf Excel smart shots in Joe Root. When he reached 70, there were only about 5 boundaries, and they're all down the behind the wicket. But different grounds and conditions. So despite the fact that he is the consolidator, Gothi, he's got the innovative.
He can play it fine, he can play it square, and he's got those abilities, and more importantly, the ability which he has, which a lot of other English batters do not have, is the ability to rotate in the middle overs, especially against spin. So I think that's what I just mentioned, that if he can play at a strike rate of late 80s or mid 90s or even at 100, which is a great strike rate to play this format, and plus being a glue and an anchor. So if an anchor can play at that strike rate, imagine how dangerous can England be.
Tom didn't really have Lockie Ferguson today, so he used his top bowlers as front lines. You always talk about a Trent Boult when you talk about New Zealand.
Matt Henry was absolutely fabulous, right on the spot, right on the button from ball 1, and that is what we expect from this kind of a setup which New Zealand has. They've been always very competitive. They might not have the skill of some of the other bowlers, but then they're so systematic and they're so structured in their processes. So I think Matt Henry delivered for the captain.
You're going to focus so much on the middle overs when you look at teams playing in the subcontinent and the spinners. The spinners, how did you rate their job or their delivery?
For a very long period of time, with the limited resources he had.
Experts had mentioned at the top, playing to your strengths, you persisted with that and put it to, under what would be a 280 chase now for New Zealand. And it's filling up here in Ahmedabad as we expect it to be. It's the opening game. We know that India opened their account in Chennai against Australia. The team is already there, gone through the first practice session. Sastika, let's come over to you. What's been happening with the men in blue as they begin their quest to reclaim World Cup glory at home soil? Back to you guys. Thank you so much for that, Sasika. Let's, of course, looking forward to that encounter as India look to open their campaign. What about the chase now? New Zealand lead 283. Rematch, yes, of the World Cup final in 2019, but it's also the start of a new World Cup campaign. We'll be right back.
But you can't be relying heavily on those guys to score 8s and 9s and over late in the piece. Key is that middle order. If Ravindra gets going, then you've got the likes of Latham, and I agree. Tom Latham is New Zealand's best player of spin. Sounds harsh on a Conway or a Williamson, but he is New Zealand's best player of spin by a stretch. And then you've got Phillips, you've got
We're at the Theatre of Dreams here in Ahmedabad in the World Cup opener. You can only dream of a World Cup debut and scoring a century in your debut. What we've just seen from New Zealand is 2 individuals from that unit managing to do that in their World Cup debuts, galloping home against England and starting their World Cup with a proper statement. Well, I don't need to be telling you that, neither does Nasser Hussain need to be telling you that. I think we'll just leave it to Mitchell Santner to tell us about what a commanding performance that was from your unit, set up by yourself and the bowlers to be chasing a 280 plus. Got to feel happy about the statement and the start, because this is a tough opposition to get through in your opener.
Yeah, obviously couldn't, obviously asked for a better start. Like you said, they're a very tough opponent, and
When you do have to adapt very quickly to different stadiums, venues, conditions, and the different phases of the game, because we always talk about those middle overs being really crucial. You want your spinners to be. This was a big one, isn't it, going forward for New Zealand?
Yeah, that was a serious statement from New Zealand. Some have them going through that Tom 4, others have named other sides. One thing you know with New Zealand, they will be there or thereabouts.
that while you can, I think. And, you know, he didn't know until yesterday afternoon when Lockie Ferguson just pulled up a little bit lame in the nets, a little bit sore. Then basically he got the word, because I was at the net session. He didn't bat. Hadn't had a bat. All of the batters were batting. Rachin Ravindra was just bowling. Didn't have a net at all, and probably got the call to have a little net later after Lockie Ferguson had a little niggle to the back.
There's a lesson in there. Best when fresh, no expectation, don't think you're playing, no nerves, and then you come out and play.
But there's a story.
Although it's come in a loss, will do him the world of good, I think.
And you'll see him in better next innings, you know, and he's understood what his role is. It's so important for England. You take his innings out today, England might have struggled to reach 230,
Well, two-time consecutive finalists New Zealand begin their campaign in quite a statement with a 9-wicket victory over the reigning champions England. And two players playing their first World Cup have scored 2 centuries, leading the way. Let's have a look at our phone page of stories.
Their warm-up fixtures, while the Netherlands are appearing in their first World Cup after the 2011 edition.
After 7 years, Pakistan are back on Indian shores, and this time to play in the World Cup. They spend about a week in Hyderabad in the build-up to their game tomorrow as they take on the Netherlands. Ravi Shastri, enough of biryani now for Pakistan. I know they've been fed it from all the different versions of Hyderabadi biryani, because now it's game time. They have been...
Need runs. They need to help out what the Bubbas and the